Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Daily Red Devil. Before we get into today's show, please do me a favour. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner, and give the video a like. Let's try and see 500 likes on today's episode. Now, as always, I like to start my shows off with a question to try and get the thoughts of the Manchester United fan base. And I want to know your thoughts on yesterday's 3-0 victory over Leicester. We will start the show off there. Apologies for not doing a match reaction video. I was absolutely knackered yesterday, so I watched the game, went to bed, and that was what I needed to do. So yeah, I'm here anyway. In relation to yesterday's game, it was obviously positive. 3 goals, no goals conceded. It was obviously against Leicester, but at the same time, you say, oh, it's only Leicester. 2 months ago, we played Leicester at Old Trafford and we nearly lost. So gradual improvements. I think there was some really, really good performances on that pitch yesterday. Ayden was unbelievable. It's devastating that he got injured. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. I thought overall we were very, very good. And I think it's a great building block for the rest of the season is my kind of take on that. And I know people are going to be like, oh, it's only Leicester. But that's 2 wins in a row. We're on our way. Has anybody seen that guy on Instagram who's not cutting his hair until United have won 5 games in a row? That's funny. So he's probably waking up this morning thinking I'm getting closer and closer to getting a haircut. But we're up to 13th in the table, which I know is still embarrassing, but we've jumped up 2 places. I saw somebody on Twitter yesterday saying we're now only 12 points off Champions League. It's funny, isn't it? How like the goalposts change after one victory. We win 1 game and people are like, well, we're only 12 points off Champions League. It could happen. I don't think so. I think if we can get in the top half, that would be, considering where we've been for most of the season, I think that would be all right. Like, obviously, it's not good enough, but considering the mess that Ruben Amorim's had to deal with, and considering not having his own squad and all the rest of it, I think if we get top half, I'd be satisfied. Obviously, not in the grand scheme of things, but in relation to this season. So, is that still realistic? I mean, at the moment, we're 7 points off 10th. The Premier League is so competitive this year. There's only 3 points difference between 5th place and 10th place, which is mad, isn't it? And like I said, we're only 12 points off the Champions League places, and we've been absolutely awful this season. And Bournemouth, who are in 10th at the moment, are only 3 points off Champions League as well, and they're in 10th. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. But we've obviously got to win more games to kind of work our way up. Obviously, Tottenham lost again yesterday, which meant that we leapfrogged them. Yeah, I mean, it was a good game. Obviously, the real tests are going to be the games coming up in the next few weeks, aren't they? But we could have easily lost that game yesterday. You know, I didn't go into it thinking we're 100% going to win. And yesterday was a little bit more of a convincing performance. I think Leicester may have had like 1 or 2 chances. But, you know, if you look at all the chances we had, we got 3 goals. Christian Eriksen nearly scored a screamer. It could have easily been 4 or 5-1 or 4 or 5-0. Like, it was very, very dominating. We had, I think, 60-70% possession. The only downside was obviously that Ayden got injured. And there is a bit of an update on Ayden this morning. Apparently, Ayden left the ground in a foot brace, you know, like one of those plastic things. But apparently he was walking, which is really positive, because there were some people saying that he's broken his leg. There's all sorts of people speculating, saying the worst. But it does look like the injury isn't going to be as bad as some of us may have thought, which is great. When it happened at the time, I was thinking, oh no, this is like a career-ending injury. Because a lot of the time when people get things like leg breaks or foot breaks or whatever, some sort of break, it's very difficult to come back from, especially when you're young. I know obviously your body heals faster when you're young, but you know, that was his Premier League debut. He was absolutely phenomenal. Probably a starting centre-back for Manchester United now, and then he gets injured. Our luck is just awful, isn't it? But yeah, hopefully we get another update on him today. Hopefully we get some good news, because I think he's been one of the shining lights of this season, alongside Ahmad. Chido breaking into the first team, that's been a shining light. I think Patrick Dorgu has been a shining light. But for Ayden to get injured so early on in his career, it is really disappointing. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. Luada says, is there any updates on Lenny Yoro? I think Lenny Yoro's back in training, I'm pretty sure. So we should hopefully see Lenny Yoro Obviously, it's the international break now, so there's no football for 2 weeks, which is quite good, I think. Because a lot of our team aren't even going to go off to the international anyway. So obviously people like Luke Shaw, Mason Mount, Toby Collier, like all of these people who are just coming back from injury will be able to work their way, work hard. There won't be games to kind of distract them. So there should be now like 2 weeks, I think, of... When's our next game? It's on the 1st of April, which is... what's the date today? 17th. Yeah, it's ages away. Our next game's 2 weeks tomorrow. So if you think that they'd have all got back to Manchester late last night, then they'll have 2 whole weeks. Obviously, some of the players will go off on international duty. But if you look at our current squad, right, and you look at the players who've been selected, you look at the players who were going to stay back, some of them may go off on like a little holiday for a little bit, maybe. I assume Ruben Amorim probably will, just to try and like reset a bit. But if you look through our team, right, from start to finish, obviously Onana will go on international duty. De Ligt, I think, has been called up now. Lindelof, I'm not sure. Dallo will have been called up. Ugarte will have been called up. Bruno will. Mazraoui will. I'm not sure about Garnacho. I don't know if he has. Eriksen will and Højlund will. So all of those players have gone, okay? But then when you look at the players on the kind of fringe, right? Toby Collier obviously hasn't. Harry Amas hasn't. Casemiro won't have. Chido Obi won't have. Mason Mount won't have. So none of those players will obviously go. They'll still be training. They'll be getting back to match fitness. And then you look at our injuries, right? All of these players are currently injured. Maguire, Dorgu. Dorgu's not injured. He was suspended. Dorgu will go to international duty. Maguire's injured. Lenny Yoro's injured. Shaw's injured. Mainu's injured. Dallo's injured. Diallo's injured. And Martinez is injured. So there's 4 or 5 players there who are all injured, who obviously won't go off on international duty, which means there'll still be like half a squad left at Carrington training over the next couple of weeks, getting back to match fitness, which is great. I think that's really positive. And I think hopefully we see people like Mason Mount, Lenny Yoro, Maguire all back, Mainu as well, after the international break. There are even some murmurs, right? And you're not going to believe me when I say this. There are even some murmurs that Luke Shaw could be back as soon as after the international break, which is quite hard to comprehend, isn't it? To see Luke Shaw back. It seems like it's almost not real, you know? But I think the international break for us has come at the perfect time. Obviously, if we'd have lost yesterday, that would have been a whole nother thing, wouldn't it? There would have been a lot of concerned people. But yeah, I think the fact that we won obviously means we go into this international break feeling very positive, feeling very upbeat, and feeling like anything can really happen going forward. Obviously, we know in the Premier League, our expectation is like pretty much out the window. Top half would be decent. But in the, what do you call it? In the league, in the Europa League, anything's possible. So yeah, I'm feeling somewhat positive about everything at the moment. Obviously, the whole situation around the club is obviously still a mess. You know, I'm not gonna. This one result doesn't paper over the cracks that have been there for God knows how long, but it is nice to win a game of football, isn't it? Welcome to everyone who's just joined the video, by the way. If you could all do me, so I need to water that plant really badly, don't I? I know, it's really naughty of me, isn't it? I'm sorry for killing the plant. I'm usually quite good with plants, but yeah, I've killed it. I'll go and water it after this video. The reason why I keep forgetting is because I can't water it up there, because otherwise the water just pours everywhere. And to take it off, I have to take the scarf's like being held up by it. So when I take it off, everything falls off. So I've just been being lazy about it pretty much. Everyone who's just joined the video though, please make sure to drop a like. Let's try and get to 200 likes on this video. 500 likes on this video, not 200. Okay, let's move on to this story about Lee Kang-in from PSG. So this was a player we were linked to in the summer, if you remember. Obviously, when there was talks of Rashford going to PSG, he was a player who was mentioned that could potentially come the other way, i.e. to join Manchester United. And the stories this morning are suggesting that Manchester United met with his agent over the weekend in England. At the moment, that's all that we know, but it's come out from a very reliable person. It's the person who works with Fabrizio, I believe, His name's Matteo Moretto. I'm 99% sure he's the guy who works with Fabrizio. Let me just double check that before I... Yeah, he is. So he's kind of like Fabrizio's right-hand man. He's got 350,000 followers on Twitter. And he said that Manchester United met with Javier Garrido, who is the agent of PSG's Kang-in this week in England. I mean, he'd be a really interesting signing, wouldn't he? Both from a footballing perspective and from a commercial perspective. 24 years of age. He obviously meets the kind of profile, the age profile that we're looking at. He's got 11 goals and assists this season, which is not bad. It's not amazing. Obviously from South Korea. Some people say he's the next Son, but I think that's maybe a little bit of a lazy comparison just because he's from South Korea. I mean, he plays in the same position he's from South Korea, but he is quite versatile as well, though, which I like. He can play as an attacking midfielder. He has done that for PSG before. He's played as a right winger. He's played as a centre forward. So he could tick a few different boxes. PSG signed him for 22 million euros from Mallorca in 2023. In relation to his value, quite hard to determine at the moment. I think he's worth maybe 30 to 40 million euros. So he's not, he's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, but he's a decent player. He's got experience. Does have quite a lot of time left on his contract. He's got 3 years left. But obviously we know that PSG will probably need to sell players this summer, and I think he's probably one of those who will pave the way, realistically. And he does play quite a lot for PSG, to be fair, though. He's played 41 times for PSG this season in all competitions. Some of those are substitute appearances, though. Like in the Champions League, he's played 11 times, but only played 400 minutes. There's 90 minutes in a game. So he's played he's probably played about half the minutes for PSG that's been available. He's featured in most games, but it's usually as a substitute. So to get 11 goals and assists playing mainly as a substitute, I think that's pretty decent, to be fair. It's not like he starts every single game. Obviously, he's a South Korea international as well. 9 goals in 35 games for South Korea at international level. I think it'd be a good signing. It's still got that kind of glamour to it that we know Manchester United like to do, where it's they're bringing in someone from PSG. From a commercial perspective, the Glazers would absolutely love this signing. You've seen how South Korea as a country have taken to Tottenham because of Son. And I think on a commercial level, this would be probably similar with Kang-in Lee, where there would be people who would come to Manchester United games literally just to see him because they're from South Korea. Tottenham have a massive South Korean fan base now just because of Son. And it's not because Son's obviously a very good player. He's the captain for South Korea as well, isn't he? So that's why the people of South Korea love him. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, Kang-in Lee is the next kind of biggest profile player out of South Korea, maybe bar Kim Min-jae, So there's those three, isn't there? There's obviously the guy at Wolves as well. Hee-chi Hwang, who, again, Wolves have a massive South Korean following just because of that one player. So I think it would be an interesting signing. I don't think it would be massively expensive. And the fact that Manchester United have already met his agent to discuss a deal. Just anybody joining that story came out from... What was it? What did I say is the guy's name on? My brain just went there for a second. Matteo Moretto, who works with Fabrizio, Italian journalist from Milan, 340,000 followers on Twitter, saying that apparently Manchester United met with his agent in England this week. And we were linked to him last summer as well, so yeah. Bassano says he's overrated. Yeah, make sure you hit like if you want me to water the plant, as Fred says. I might even do a live plant watering. What about that? Wow. Imagine that for content. A live plant watering. That'd be incredible content, wouldn't it? What we got? Al says that we should look at Desiree Doué. He's never going to be sold, mate. Never. Not from PSG. That's why PSG want to get rid of this guy, because they've just signed Desiree Doué for 60, 70 million, haven't they? So it makes sense on all different levels. Somebody else says he's mid. He's not very good. I think 11 goals and assists coming off the bench as a sub is not bad, really. If it's going to cost Man United 25, 30 million euros and it's a name for the squad, I don't think it's a bad deal. You know, we're not going to go and get £100 million players in every position this summer. We've got to be clever with our business. That's why we're looking at people like Desiree Doué. That's why we're looking at that guy from Braga. What was his name? The right wing back. Like, we're looking at slightly cheaper players, opposed to being like, I don't know, we're going to sign Ousmane Dembele for 100 million and we're going to spend all summer negotiating it, and then we get him on deadline day for like 120 million. Like, you know, like we did with Pogba, like we did with Casemiro, like we did with Anthony, where we tried to do with De Jong, where we focus all of our efforts on one big name player. It doesn't work, and then we end up paying over the odds for it. You know? Somebody says he had a quarrel with Son in the national team. Wow. Didn't know that. Mighty D says, what about Fofana from Lyon? Yeah, he's a good player. Cherky as well. I like him. Roger Fernandes, that's it. The guy from Braga. Right, I want to react to Bruno Fernandes' interview after the game yesterday. I don't know if anybody's seen it yet. Let me just have a sip of my tea, which is always cold. So obviously Bruno Fernandes, as the captain of Manchester United, was expected to speak to the press after yesterday's win over Leicester. And he was asked about the criticism, and he said, you're talking about Roy Keane, aren't you? Fair play for speaking out about it. And he said, you know what, I respect Roy Keane and I respect his opinion. You know, he didn't argue with him. He didn't say like, oh, Roy should keep his mouth shut. You know, some people like that, they let their egos get the better of them. So fair play to Bruno. I think he has been phenomenal this season. I know he creates mixed opinions. I'm not going to try and say I didn't say this, but I said in the summer, you know, if someone offered me 70 to 100 million for him, I would sell him. That doesn't mean he's not a good player. I just thought that at that time, at the age of 30, if we got a massive offer in from Saudi, I would consider selling him. And I to be honest, I still would do that. And I know people are going to be like, how can you say that? He scored a hat-trick the other night. I think if we were in a position where we were financially stable, I wouldn't sell him. I would keep him. But the fact is we're not. And obviously we know why we're not, because of the Glazers, because of Ineos buying the club opposed to other people. We know why we are where we are, okay? We don't need to go over that again. It's pointless. But we are in the position we are in now. So, you know, if a massive offer came in for him, like in the summer, from a Saudi team, I would have considered it. But in reality, why would Bruno go to Saudi? You know? This season, he's got 16 goals and 15 assists in 44 games. 31 goals and assists. They were saying yesterday that this is his second best season so far at Manchester United. And we've still got, I think, 9 games left in the Premier League and potentially 5 games left in the Europa League. So there's still 14 games before the end of the season. So even if he was to get a goal and an assist every other game, right? His stats would be absolutely phenomenal for this season. He could quite easily, I think, get to maybe 50 goals and assists this season if we go all the way in the Europa League, which is crazy. But obviously then there's the conversation that some people then go down is he's the only one who's getting the goals and assists, right? So what does that tell you about his style of play? And I think that's why a lot of people have a problem with him. He doesn't always do the obvious pass. He's always trying to do something special, which is great when it works, but 9 times out of 10 this season, it hasn't worked. You know, we see him try and do the Hollywood ball and it goes out, no one gets it. Or it's a really hard one, isn't it? Because of these creative players, we expect them to create. And then when they do try and create, we complain because they've lost the ball. It's like, what would we rather do? Would we rather be like Man City, who just play simple 5-yard passes all game, keep the ball, or try and do like quick, transitional play, because that's what we kind of play like. What would you prefer? I honestly, when Man City were dominating, I would watch their games and I'd find it so boring. I always think our games are relatively entertaining, but usually for the wrong reasons, you know, because it's end to end. It's like quick attacks, counter attacks. Whereas like with Man City, it's just like so stable. They get 70-80% of possession. They'll score 2 or 3 goals. And it's just like, it's just kind of boring, isn't it? But obviously they're winning, so you can't really complain. But from an enjoyment perspective, I don't think it's that exciting. But Bruno is an exciting player for me. He is that kind of, he's a special player who can make something happen. But it's that middle ground of, would you rather have somebody who is more secure with the ball or somebody who wants to create things? And I think realistically, we do need a creator in this side, because if we didn't have Bruno Fernandes, where would the goals and assists come from? You know, that's the big question, especially when Ahmad's injured. especially when you don't really have a proper striker. You don't really have proper players in each position. And now I'm not saying that Bruno is the answer forever, but at the moment, imagine where we would be this season without Bruno. Some people think we'd be in the top 4 without Bruno. You know, it's impossible for us to know. Some people do genuinely believe that I've spoken to. They've said, you know, I think Bruno's the problem. If he wasn't here, we'd be in the top 4 easily because he gives the ball away too much. But I don't know. I don't know. Right. I think we've come to the end of the video and it's time for me to water my plant. So wish me luck. Wish the plant luck. Have a great Monday, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow as normal. Don't forget to give the video a like before you go. Don't forget to subscribe. Somebody says, have we become Bruno FC? Yeah, I'd say so. Well, we're not getting any goals and assists from anywhere else, are we, really? Everything comes through Bruno now. So, yeah, we have, really. Anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Buy a plastic plant. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, to be fair. Yeah, I'll consider it. Plastic plant maybe is a better option for the plant, isn't it? This plant will be fine. It will bounce back. It's only got a few dead leaves. Well, I say a few dead leaves. I think they're all dead, but it will bounce back. You wait. Give it a couple of days, right? And he'll be back on the shelf looking healthy. All right? Have a great day, everybody. Be back tomorrow morning as normal. Thanks for watching. Speak to you later. Bye-bye.